Nicholas Taylor, for standing for the Harlow Alliance Party. Just for the uninitiated, a quick 30 seconds on the Harlow Alliance Party.
Well, the Harlow Alliance Party was launched on the 26th of January in response to residents saying that basically Harlow Council weren't transparent enough with regard to the policies and procedures that it was using and the outcome of those procedures. We, as a group of local residents, felt that it was time to actually come together to try and make things more public so that residents knew what was going on both in the town in general and in particular wards across the town.
So what's the response been so far? You've all been out there. How many candidates are there in Harlow for you?
We've got 3 candidates. We only launched, as I say, on the 26th of January, so it's only 3 months ago. But we've got 3 candidates in particular wards where we felt that the council should be more scrutinised about what's going on. And this is particularly in relation to the local plan, which was published by the Labour Party on the day before we launched. We've now been knocking on hundreds of doors in these wards and finding that people have got no idea what's going on. And we're standing here at Pollard Hatch, which is a very good example, where houses are being proposed in that local plan and residents living close by have been not made aware of that at all.
So you'd say that at the heart of your party's sort of credo, your raison d'etre, call it what you will, is about the local plan, building on the house, consultation. That's the heart of you, is it?
Yes, it's very much at the heart of what we're saying. The local plan envisages about 1,000 houses being built within the council boundary, mostly on greenfield sites, such as this one here. Some of them have been playgrounds for many years, other spaces that have been used by members of the public. And as I say, they're up in arms now about that. And it's only because we've actually highlighted this that the other 2 parties have even discussed this with residents. They've been forced to, quite frankly, when these candidates have been knocking on the doors where we've already been, and those candidates have been questioned. And then they're really trying to disassociate themselves from these sites, saying we don't agree with this, we don't agree with that. As things stand, half the sites that are on the list, councillors aren't happy with, and yet this is the formal plan that was agreed on the 25th of January.
How much say do councillors have, I guess, is a question. I guess we could go back to a couple of nights ago with the 172 homes at the railway station roundabout, and you know, it's really, how much influence can councillors have?
Well, the council originally put together a list of hundreds of sites around the town in 2014. It literally looked at every single green space in the town, and using a process of elimination have come down to 21 sites. So these are gone through a very precise programme of looking at things, but not involving the public. So these 21 sites are ones chosen by the council. They don't have to choose those sites. There are other sites that we, as the Harlow Alliance Party, think are more suitable for housing, rather than these play spaces and other greens within estates. So yeah, the council have got a distinct chance to choose those sites.
Alan Leverett, you're also standing. We've discussed the planning within Harlow, but do you have any concerns about planning out with Harlow?
Well, the Harlow Council has signed an agreement with East Herts District Council and Epping District Council to combine in relation to their local plan as well, and not raise objections to them to a certain extent. And they're now putting housing, as many people now know, right the way around Harlow. Outside our boundaries, which the council won't get any income from because it'll be in Epping or it'll be in East Herts. And they're putting these houses surrounding people, again with no consultation whatsoever with the residents of Harlow. So I think they should at least bear it in mind that they should consult the people of Harlow. It's the people of Harlow we want to represent and make sure that they do get consulted whenever there's any issues like this that come up.
Do you feel that a lot of the reason you've got involved in politics is because you feel the people of Harlow sort of faces pressed up against the window of life looking in?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I've been in Harlow since 1973 and I've seen Harlow at its best and I've seen it at its worst. And a lot of things have got detrimental from the point of view of residents. And I think it's about time that the residents should be consulted rather than politicians arguing with each other and making their minds up on behalf of the residents without consulting. Yeah, one of the things that we are also looking at is that when we've been going around the houses, we've been getting a lot of replies from people that they are living, perhaps one or two people living in a large house, and they'd like to downsize. Now, these new housing areas, if they were to put bungalows on the site, some of them would give their right arm for a bungalow. They're getting frail and elderly. I mean, most of the population in Harlow is, it's 50 years old, well, 60 years old now actually. But I mean, if it's that old, the people in Harlow that originally occupied are old and living in houses which could be occupied by families, and they would be happy to go into a bungalow. So then we could get houses back that are council houses, or if they own their own house, they could afford perhaps to buy one of those, and another house will be available without having to build on greenfield sites.
So are you just not a one-trick pony? Might be a bit insulting, but are there other issues? I know you're only in your first few months. These are very, very early days. But do you concern of other issues as well?
Well, we do have really 7 policy areas which are available on our website, and things like the leisure and tourism strategy that the council don't have, for instance. There's lots of wonderful services and facilities in the town which I'm afraid are not very well publicised. I met a lady only yesterday who came from out of town to go to the museum, and she'd obviously heard about this but wasn't aware of any other services in the town, such as Harlow Nature Reserve. She'd never heard of that, and I suggested she perhaps pays a visit. So there's a whole range of things that people could come to Harlow as a tourist or as a visitor, and we're not doing enough as a town to publicise those facilities. There's other things with regard to housing, the lack of maintenance to housing, particularly on the outside. I live next door to a house that's a council house, hasn't been painted for 20 odd years, needs a coat of paint, flat blocks that needs a coat of paint as well, look in a terrible state. And whereas a few years ago I could say hand on heart that the council houses perhaps look better often than the ones that owned, it's completely the other way around now. And having done canvassing, I've now seen a lot of properties that are council owned that are in desperate state of external repair.
It's really hard to start up a party, isn't it, or a group, or call it what you will. So I guess you've got to manage expectation on this first time. What are your expectations?
The expectation really is this is a 3-year plan, to be quite frank. We started off just 2 or 3 months before the election, and we know that it's going to be hard to get a candidate elected, to be quite frank. But over the next 2 or 3 years, we hope that by scrutinising the council and bringing issues to the public, we can build momentum for the next 2 elections.
Because Harlow has had other parties of influence, and I guess we look back to not so long ago, Lib Dems are in co-control, etc. So do you think people are looking for some form of third way?
Well, I think certainly from our experience of talking about the local plan, there's no doubt that people want a third way. The way that this has been handled is certainly something that residents are not happy with. But coming out from those conversations on the doorstep, we've come across lots of other issues. And one of them is, for instance, the lack of maintenance to trees. And if your camera pans round, you can see a very large tree, which is only about 25 feet from a house. Probably hasn't been maintained for some years. And we're meeting residents who are very concerned about trees close to their house. Indeed, where I live, there's trees in a cul-de-sac. The lamppost you can't now see. It hasn't been maintained for probably 15 to 20 years. And these trees are often in the wrong place, and people are concerned about how it would affect the foundations of their houses.
So I guess it's, with your party, I guess it's tiny acorns.
It's tiny acorns, and from my experience in the past as a previous housing manager, I know there was a considerable budget held by the council to maintain trees, and I suspect there's no budget now to maintain these trees.
Nicholas, I wish you all the best.